We're good to go. Okay. Thank you, Steve. It is Wednesday, 8 June 2022, and this is a regular board meeting of the Waterloo Valley Board, Select Board. And I am the chair, Rich Rita, and with me today is Bob Freeze. The third member of the board, Margaret Turner, is currently on the road and will not join us for this meeting. The two of us do make a quorum. Privilege of the floor. I don't see anybody out there, so I will move beyond that at this point. Approval of minutes. Have we many minutes to approve?
Yeah, you have the 15th, correct? Yeah.
The
15th or the 18th,
the 18th.
that was sent out.
Yeah, it did look like it included some of the changes that I had.
I had taken what was in the file. She has your changes
Right.
to make. Those
Still.
have not been reflected yet
Okay.
because she was on vacation. So
I had two changes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I saw your
So
thing.
she'll, as long as you're okay with the changes that you've made, and would you like Margaret to look at?
Well, I was going to say, why don't we wait until Margaret? She weighed in.
Not that I'm aware of.
So why don't we wait until she can weigh in on it?
Okay.
And then
We'll wait.
just wait for her, and then we'll just take
Okay.
care of it.
Yeah,
The
I'll
next-
have her
the next
update them
meeting.
with all your changes and then send them out.
Yeah, and that should be just a quick approval next time.
All right, very good.
Okay, financial update.
You have a report in your packets where 37% for the year. There were none of the departments. Anything that you want to comment on, Steve?
I guess the only one line that you see there that I would like to bring to your attention, if you haven't already reviewed it, would be the planning and zoning line, nearing 100%. Tara's done a lot of work on the master plan, as we all know, for us this year, and that budget is closing in on becoming expended. So Wendy has been approving the invoices as they come in, and we've been discussing them, but it's
So has revenue from repayments, like we've been billing developers?
Yeah.
Has that been put back in here? Or are those bills all against this line and then the revenue on the revenue side?
they're all against the line, and the revenue comes in.
It goes here.
Yeah.
So the 9,000 is just the master plan work then?
No, I'm sorry, I got that in reverse.
Okay.
So I know that there have been at least 2 or 3 invoices that we've been able to tie back to the developer.
Right.
I would, without having to go back and look, say that that's roughly about $2,000.
Okay, but that should be credited on this line. We'll work on
Right.
that and we'll take any revenues that we've received for payments,
Right.
because it's covering the costs that were used on this line.
But you don't put that in the revenue line?
We would charge it back here because it's not a town expense. We've prepaid their expense. So we'll get the credit in the proper place and then we'll give you an update.
I see that prepaid and spent basically comes out of the planning boards.
It comes out of the planning board line.
Got it. Okay, that's fine. And yeah, obviously, just keep it moving. We may have any.
Right, exactly, because we may have some
Zoning.
zoning changes.
Yeah, it's only June, right?
Grants are way under, is that because we're just waiting for that other grant on these, reading applications of this?
The 190,000, yes, that would be the reading, right?
160 for the reading app.
Yes,
It was approved and the orders are starting to be placed.
On the fifth, yeah,
Like that.
yeah, the COVID grant,
well, the COVID
Not that-
grant's
not
not
that-
in here, this is what's
It's-
voted
yeah,
on
it's-
in town meeting.
that's right.
So
It's not in.
that would be an additional expense, but that's already been accepted as additional revenue for a specific purpose. So it'll just be expended against those things that were on that list that you when you voted.
Right.
The AFG grant, they said it's probably start announcing this month.
Okay, I see David Britton walked in, so let me slew over to him since he was kind enough to come in today at the board's request. So David, the reason why the board arranged to talking to you is that we're interested in the land that you just purchased, that's zone rec 13.5 acres. And as you know, the town was very interested initially and thought hard and discussed with town council the possibility of buying it from the Waterville company when it first became available. And as it turned out, we decided not to, and you ultimately purchased the property. So since then, we've had a strategic planning discussion, and we've also been made quite aware of the lack of town facilities at the north end of the town. So we've been thinking about how to deal with this lack of facilities at the north end of the town, and we are rethinking this land that you recently purchased. It could be a great piece of land for a small trailhead parking lot right by the connector and the Greeley Path Trail, take you right up to Depot Camp. It also could be.
Where, excuse me, where would that be?
Well, we haven't decided where to, but just conceptually speaking, the land is situated in an area where we would like to have a trailhead parking, we would like to have some facilities for hikers and so forth. And I also want to thank you for coming to an agreement on the easement for us to be able to run a water line underneath that property when we finally get around to starting up that project. So the bottom line here is that I think the select board is seriously considering trying to acquire that property that you purchased. And so we wanted to see if you were interested in pursuing such a path with the board.
Want me to speak?
Please.
I consider the land, the 13.5 acres, absolutely beautiful land. I would guess that 10 acres are level land, and I'm being generous, but the other 3 would be that sharp pitch up to high country. When I talk about the land, it's like a long rectangle, but it's more like the state of Vermont. So that the small end is down at West Branch Road, and the bigger end is at what is it? Tecumseh Condo.
Right, comes out there.
What I love about Waterville is the various community building projects that we have. My absolute favorite is the fishing derby that includes not just the legal taxpayers, not just the wealthy property owners, but people from the surrounding area. So that what I would like is for the town to take over that whole piece of land and develop it as a community park. And I have considerably more hope than for parking lots. On the downstream end, where kids light fires on the stones, it's probably a safe place to light fires, but it's a potential problem. With people going down there and littering and making a lot of noise and disturbing the neighbors. It certainly is not my idea of what I mean by community building. My pet project is an off-leash dog park up against West Branch Road, which I take to be the least conspicuous and troubled by barking dogs area that's there. The other thing about that is that if you look down from West Branch Road, you'll see there are pools of stagnant water. These, I discovered last night that they're not entirely stagnant, that they're home to many, many mosquitoes. I consider that those pools with the huge boulders down in there as potentially beautiful place to walk. So I've started clearing out some of the dead wood in there. But if you could picture those pools, maybe with an increase of water being cleaned up and a pathway that goes in and out among them, it would be a beautiful thing. My rival bidder in trying to buy this was High Country. And what they wanted to do was protect their view of the mountain. And I don't care if they want to have a view of the mountain. And I've already told them they can cut down some pine trees that are interfering. But as far as owning that land solely for their view, I'm not enthusiastic about that at all. I have other prejudices. I don't particularly I wouldn't want to see a bunch of horse riding Virginia fox hunters come galloping in their jogger riding boots over our community park. The reason I brought up the fireplace down there, I think it's nice if there's a fireplace, but it's just as a potential for a lot of littering and bad noise. But what I would certainly like to see is the road go all the way down there with a nice parking area, making it accessible to our ever vigilant police force. So that if they're going to keep an eye on that fireplace, if it were to continue as a fireplace, they could get down there easy. Right now, I think the entryway is up from High Country entry.
Yeah, and it gets muddy every walk.
Right, it's-
Sometimes it's drying out,
Yeah.
I walk there all day.
And down in the bottom, it's nearest to the actual fire. That pretty much floods every year. But a raised walkway would take care of that. Anyway, so I would like if there were a way for people to get in by car, easily park. The police could keep an eye on it a whole lot more easily than they can now. The reason I'm so enthusiastic about a dog park, and I'm not committed to anything. What I would like to see is a community park with ideas coming from the community. At the moment, Sean Ward, if I got his name right, is offering to buy it. Greg Larson wants to buy it. I want the town to have it. It's just too nice a piece of property to have somebody in there making money. Of course, there can be a coincidence between service to the towns, surrounding towns, and making money, but not always. I would be disappointed if the town thought they could take it over to run a field of solar panels, or disappointed if the town could take it over and thought they'd run it as a new sewage treatment plant.
Well, it is zone rec, so even though the town doesn't have to follow its own zoning, probably not a good place for a sewage treatment facility.
I'm relieved to hear that.
Anyway, I don't think they have any words.
So,
But no, David, so I mean, it sounds like, without going into the
Yeah.
details of how the land can be used, I think there's some obvious overlap there, some of the ideas we have, some of the ideas you have, and then like you say, getting public, public input as to what we can use that land for. So you would be agreeable to moving forward with the
Oh,
town?
absolutely, that's
Okay.
always been my hope.
Okay, great. Well, then why don't we leave it there at this point, and then we can get into the next steps we need to take to
Yeah, we'll start talking to the town
council, will be the
council.
next move.
Town council, that sounds
Well,
like
it
it's
sounds
totally
ominous, but don't worry about it.
It's standard.
Well, it's standard.
It's-
We don't currently have funding available to do this, so it would be, everything would be pointed towards.
The town meeting in
23.
2023, whatever
Town
the
meeting.
cost of the town would be, at least just
Yeah.
to purchase the property. Again, obviously, we don't have to come in with a full bore
Plan.
and then we certainly would like to continue to have your input as to how best to use that land. But the idea,
I
Would
might
keep
want
it
to
as
get
a
some things
recreation.
written into the purchase and sales.
we could certainly, I mean, you have every right to put conditions on the property, on the sale of the property, and we could go over those
Okay,
when the time
I
comes.
know you folks are busy, but if you give me another minute, I want
Sure.
to give a pitch for the off-leash dog park.
Sure.
It's not just dogs, although I love to see these dogs chasing each other and playing keep away and running and playing hide and go seek and doing all their stuff. But dogs are a wonderful way to meet your neighbors. But as you probably know, there are some young men in the world who get a cute little dog just so they can meet their neighbors.
That's very walking my
I think you may need to have a separate conversation.
Yeah, you're all set.
No, that's good. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, David. And I appreciate the dog park. My daughter lived in the Houston, Texas area. We used to have access to a municipal dog park, which the dog loved, but she moved away from that area. Now the dog has nowhere to really
Well, good for
run. It's
you.
not a happy dog.
But, Newton is getting more like the major high-rise apartments of Central Park West,
Yeah.
where nobody knows any neighbor. The only person they know in the building is the doorman. Even in Newton and Wellesley and Dover, that's more the rule than it ever was in Waterloo.
Thank you, David. Thank you for coming in. We will be in touch. Tim, I see you walked in. You're welcome to sit through the whole meeting, but please
Yeah, I'm
come
here.
on in. And
I'm here because I made a mistake. And I have a boat in the valley of my house, and I read Chief Noyes sent me the zoning rulings on having recreational vehicles in town. I read point 1 in the past. I never made it to the full point 2. And I moved the boat regularly as we take it out throughout the summer. And my driveway is actually protected by a bunch of trees. Normally has good growth underneath those trees, but those trees have grown higher. And we've lost our understory this year, so you can see into my driveway quite well. Recently, Dave, you know me out here, there was a complaint made about the boat being in town, and he used that zoning ordinance, and the ordinance says that the selectmen can issue a acceptance to that or variance to that if they so deem it not being against the purpose of the ordinance or as written. So I wanted to come here in front of you today to find out if I reestablish that undergrowth, which prevents most of the view of the boat. I assume that's what needs to happen. As you can see directly in my driveway at the moment. If I could maintain the boat there, the reason I like having a boat in town, honestly, it's because I like my boys to have to be work to go out on.
Bob, do you have any?
Well, I haven't read that portion of the zoning ordinance, but I'm not sure if you put undergrowth that satisfies the zoning, does it? I haven't read it,
It's
so
as
I'm not
long
sure.
as it's not visible from the public way.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
Right. And it's a zoning, does the board have the authority to deal with the zoning a violation, or should Tim go to the ZBA in this case? Or can we, is it a regulation that we can waive in this case?
Well, I think you have some discretion on it. It's, if you, as the board, consider it a violation, and then Tim doesn't do anything about it,
Right.
then that would be where the CBA would come into.
If we would have turned down,
If you were to turn down
Or
this
to
request and
enforce
he
the
just
code.
said, I'm gonna keep doing it, you sent the cease and desist,
right,
he could appeal that to the CBA. And then they would be involved,
right,
but as a matter, if you don't feel that this is a violation to the purpose and spirit of the ordinance, then
It does say in the ordinance, the selectmen may approve permit of temporary storage of such storage.
Right.
If where such storage would not interfere with the purpose of this paragraph.
is that in the zoning
Read it a
ordinance?
little louder.
Sorry, it says the selectmen may approve permits for temporary storage where such storage would not interfere with the purpose of this paragraph.
That's in the zoning ordinance.
So where does it go in the winter?
Oh, I store it in a barn down in Canton.
Oh, okay, so
It's off property in the winter. Yeah. Okay.
Well, at the present time, it is in violation, so I guess maybe we give everyone a month or something to try to screen it, if that's what you were suggesting.
Sure.
Yeah, no, I'm fine with that.
Dave?
That's fine, if that's. You certainly have the authority to do that.
I mean, it is in violation right now, so.
Okay, that seems fine. I'm
So
gonna
a
do
month.
that. Is a month,
Yeah, I'll see what I can do in a month and come back and I assume that Chief Noise would be the one that would be,
Yep.
I'd be asking to take a look and see if it's.
Yeah, I can take a look, I can see whatever remedy comes in and I can give you a report.
We'll put it on the agenda 2 meetings from now.
Okay.
yeah, I mean, it's an eyeball test anyway.
Yeah.
So that's.
no, that's fine.
Good feed. Easy. Seems to work then, Tim.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
while I'm here, a couple of issues that are showing up from the resort side that I just want to make the selectmen aware of. Employee housing has been a major conversation point in all tourism communities, as we've all seen the population spike. And the National Forest has come to me to help work with them also. We met with the housing, the New Hampshire Housing Authorities yesterday at the Ski New Hampshire meeting. That's a really good dialogue. But it does take a collaborative effort between all parties that are involved. So I think it would behoove all of us if the selectmen and the town were to help to look into this issue and try to come up with creative solutions for all of us. Because it's going to get pretty hard to find workers up here without solving this problem.
It's something we've addressed on the planning board. And it is a difficult nut to crack here in Waterloo Valley. You were gonna say something?
I just wondered, when you say the Waymo National Forest is involved, is there any indication they might be open to?
We're having coffee on Tuesday next week. So
Really?
they called me 2 days ago and Justin President said, nothing's on the table, let's talk.
That's pretty impressive. That's a big change.
Correct.
So I think maybe a group of people, a planning board rep, select board rep, you guys, we can help you, we can participate in the discussion however you want.
Yep.
Maybe you have that cup of coffee and come back.
I think that's the best idea. I agree.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of sympathy on this, and we've wrestled with this on the planning board.
Yeah.
Off and on, especially now that we're working through our master plan. Trying to come up with a way that what can we do as a town
Yeah,
for workforce, and we're so limited in what's available to us, especially given the.
I mean,
value of land.
it's impacting everyone.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not just here, it's not just the ski area, it's
Right.
every business and, The region.
Oh, everywhere.
So I don't know if anybody in this room besides me knows, but when Town Square was built, the apartments upstairs were intended to be employee housing. And Tom Corcoran's vision was that in April and November, when there's nothing else going on, that the lights are still on, there's people hanging out in bars, there are employees. And that was always the intention, the 33 units upstairs would be employee housing. And then when the economy shifted, the shift was made to make them rental properties. But that was the intention of all of these apartments upstairs.
Yeah.
When they were built.
The New Hampshire Housing Authority and the development funds that are out there for these initiatives are quite robust at the moment. And the conversations we had over the past few weeks have been very interesting. I just want to make sure you guys are staying informed on it, as we are going to need all partnerships to be able to pull together and make something really work and make it sustainable, so that they don't turn back into vacation housing, as you know, Bob was just alluded to. So we can write the rulings and make sure that they're sustainable that way.
No, I mean, it impacts the town workforce too, trying to get people to come work here.
Another issue that has come across us during our Tuesday meetings has been the lack of EV chargers. And it's not just here, it's electric vehicle chargers.
Definitely.
Yeah, and that's not just here, it's throughout the entire state. They put up a plot map yesterday of one of the seminars, where it showed how all of Vermont, Maine, Massachusetts, all have EV chargers pretty much everywhere, and New Hampshire is really far behind. One thing to be paying attention to is the Volkswagen decision that's starting to make its way through the House, which does do some pretty interesting things for the ability for municipalities to be looking at electric vehicle chargers. And obviously, we'd have to do it with partnership with local businesses. I just want to show that the resort is in full support of doing something with public-private partnership with us.
We were told that the Windsor Hill unit only costs $2,000, but the remainder of the cost was paid for by whoever the company is.
The company's name is Blink, and Blink has different types of initiatives, but the installation is the cost a lot with Blink. They do a profit share on the charging itself. It's a pretty interesting endeavor that they do. I've reached out to them to find out more information. There's other companies out there like Juice Bar and Charge Points and others that do similar initiatives. It's really, there is no great business profile for any of them. The amount of earnings from them is very hard. However, the public sentiment for them is extremely strong. So there's the numbers don't pan out, but the marketing and sentiment side makes it so it's almost we have to do something. We have to make it
The
work.
Aronsons ran into two women on Saturday who were here with a Tesla, and they had 12 miles left on their charge, and they would have had to be towed to Ashland.
Yep.
The Aronsons let them use the charger in their garage.
Yep.
So luckily they ran into them, but if they hadn't, these people would have been towed to Ashland.
As a resort, obviously, we become less and less competitive, you know, do something about EV charges. Have you, Tim, have you had an opportunity to talk to the Renewable Energy Committee, Kim?
Oh, yeah. Jim's my boy's teacher.
Right.
Yeah,
no, I know.
We've talked about the complexities of this, and it
Right.
really comes down to a collaborative effort, once again, between the co-op, the community, and the business community. All of us have to be willing to move forward on something to make something work.
Did we charge that committee?
That is one of
They're
their
working
prime
on it.
initiatives,
They
is
are.
EV charging and community
The
power.
biggest thing, Tim, I
Those are
think,
big initiatives.
from a public-private cooperative, it's really gonna be the land. And I think that's gonna be securing easements or whatever it's gonna take for the land to actually put the chargers on. I think we can find grant programs, the VW money. I think there are a lot of ways that we could participate as a town in the financing side. but we just don't have the land.
In my mind, the easiest and simplest thing to do would be to get one dual charger that would be at the Welcome Center. Welcome Center is a small plot of land. It's already a collaborative effort between the business community and the resort to make it function. It would be a fairly easy install and to at least start to move the needle. Would be my opinion. The other thing that I do also recognize after yesterday and having the conversations with Gary LeMay from the New Hampshire Co-op is that there's also a good case study for non-network chargers. Now, non-network chargers are much less expensive. They're the ones that you would have at your house. You can tie that into a timing system where you could charge those during off-peak hours at all of the hotels. Those only cost about $2,000 for the full installation. And then the hotels can have these without having to have all the network aspects of it, which really racks up the dollars when it comes to putting chargers in. But I just want to mainly just express my concern and my willingness to participate in any solution.
We're very receptive to both. We've been trying to get our heads around this for some time.
We have a meeting next week.
The Renewable Energy Committee. Yeah,
So we'll.
be the town
we'll
on
talk
to,
about it.
to connect in and see if we can't move this ball
Yep.
forward and stop talking about it, and doing something about it.
One other thing that's really great is we are in the New Hampshire Co-op, and the co-op is the only utility in the state that's providing a current rebate for installing those. And yesterday I found out that it's not per member or account, it's per property, that they offer up to $5,000 rebates. So it's also another advantage. That's all.
Jim, can you, are there plans to, on the maintenance in town square to the summer, you know?
Oh, we're all constantly doing maintenance. Currently, I just came by the guys that were doing the landscaping maintenance. It's obviously that time of the year, we need to make sure that our landscaping is taken care of and grass is getting cut real fast. So we have a lot of people working on that right now. This right outside of here was a project that we started in the winter time, and we didn't like the turnout, so we stopped the project. We are redesigning the way that we're working on these stairways, because the stairways are the number one concern that we want to address first. After they finish the basement of the conference center, that's the plan to come back here.
So after the stairway, they go to the other ones?
Yep. Once we get this one into a position where we like it, we're trying to make it so the stairways not only work as a nice stairway, but also work as a shelter for the garbages. Try to prevent the bear issues, because currently we have to collect all garbage out of the town square each night to prevent the bears from coming in, so it's labor intensive.
I just think it, you know, it reflects on the image of the resort.
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt, the deferred maintenance around the entire resort. Our concentration has truly been on making sure the roofs are not leaking. We started there, and then we're going to be working on the exteriors more and trying to get the product level to a higher level. As we all know, the conference center lost all of its business during COVID. We really need to concentrate on bringing that business back. So that's why we put our concentration on remodeling that. You can see what we've done up at the launch. It's been good. It's been well received. We're going to continue to push on. Our crew has gone from 4 people to I think we have 20 in that team now. So we should be able to make a fairly good impact.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Anything else?
No, anything else for me?
Thanks for the.
No, thank you for coming in.
Thank you. Take care.
All right, why don't we move to department head reports, and we'll start with.
So let's see, we have our balance bike rally this Saturday.
As opposed to a biker rally.
Yes, balance bikes,
Balance bike.
toddlers for anyone who doesn't know.
A little different then.
Yeah. So that should be a fun event.
We're all
We're
able to.
we're hoping to get a good turnout, but it is one of 3, so we'll see how it goes. It is a brand new event. We also have the Gaga Ball pit at Packard Field has been installed. It was finished today. So that is there for people to use. The rules are posted right on the side of the structure itself. And we'll be leaving a ball there with Sharpie written to please leave it there and not take it. See how that goes.
Yeah.
You know, we're just really working hard, getting ready for summer, and that's really what's happening for us. A million little balls in the air. So, but those are the two big things for this week that I thought I could talk about.
I noticed there's a new porta potty down in the parking lot. Is that, so is that a third one that,
Which parking lot?
BTS?
There's, I don't know about that one.
We did not increase our.
No, there's two, and it's against the wall of the
Yeah.
building.
I know where they
Do you
are.
know where those
There's
are?
another one down.
Oh, really?
The other end of the
Maybe
parking
they
lot.
did that for graduation. Maybe.
Well, that would be weird because they have those other
I
two.
don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I haven't heard anything about
It
it.
was not us. We'll find out. I'll call.
Maybe they ordered it and forgot to cancel it or something. I don't know.
Maybe we'll leave it there.
Yeah.
Find out what it costs.
Don't ask too many questions. Don't ask too many questions.
That's interesting. Is there there's no construction being done or anything down there?
There's a Melanson trailer there that they're doing roof work up by my house, but I think they have a porta potty there already. So I don't think it's them.
Yeah, it's in the driveway.
It's in their driveway, yeah. So I don't think it's
Yeah,
them.
they've already got one at the end of the driveway.
All right, we'll check on
Other than that, we have staff training starting June 21st. And camp starts the 27th. So, yeah.
David?
Just for those of you that attended the Derby, a big thank you. Thank you from Brooke and I as appreciation. We had, what was our final numbers? Did we count those yet?
The participants.
Yeah.
It was. I don't know, I don't have the number. If I guess.
It
it'd
looked
be
pretty
like-
healthy.
Yeah,
That
it was, there was a
we haven't
lot
had
of
a chance
people
to
there.
do the calculations, but very well attended. We managed to stay out of the rain. And we very much appreciate all the support for that. It is a nice event that I know we look forward to every year. So we switched gears and just had a meeting for the National Night Out, which is gonna be August 2nd, Tuesday evening, again, down at the Sugar Shack. We're reaching out to sponsors. That's another event. Typically that's been a free event for all three communities to participate in. So we're gonna be moving forward with that. Been busy with commercial inspections. So we sent letters out to all the commercial properties that need life safety inspections. And we started booking those with a lot of the commercial properties. So Jeff and I has been working on that. EMT was completed last week. They took their final last Thursday. Everybody passed, which is good news. So now they're just waiting to get their hours and to wait to take their national registry test, get their license. So.
EMT.
No,
Basic.
Basic. It's basic. We submitted the paperwork this week for the advanced EMT course, which is going to start in September here. And that class looks like it's going to be pretty full, run just before Christmas. There is no other AEMT course in the state right now, so this will be the only. So we expect it to be in full class.
So a lot of the people from out of town.
We do. We have, of course, we have preference for our staff to be in the class. I believe we have 6 that are willing to take the AEMT class. And then that opens up for about another, the class size can be up to 25, but that's a little bold. If we can keep it under 20, would be ideal. Just because of practical portions, it's a little easier to get people through. So, but we do charge for that. We'll have to get some, a few supplies for that class. Some mannequins, and arms to stick with needles and that sort of thing. So, talking about some of the building permits, we did about, so probably since the last time we met, a little over a dozen building permits. Nothing major, a lot of renovations, that sort of thing. we talked about in the process of potentially trying to streamline the permits, if I get a free minute to do so. But some of the things that I'd be looking to bring to you to weigh in on is some of the things that are considered maintenance and not renovations. For example, the roof, you know, if they're replacing a shingle roof because it's no longer good anymore and they're putting a shingle roof back on, I would consider that maintenance and not necessarily something that would initiate a building permit for. Same thing with like driveway, if they're paving their driveway, if they've already had pavement and they're just repaving it, I would consider that maintenance. Siding, they're replacing it with something in kind. We get a lot of those types of things, but the way the ordinance is written now, it's either $1,000 or anything that affects life safety. And what I'd be looking to introduce, and this wouldn't be till next year, is looking to revisit that, what prompts a building permit and what are some of the things. So the way that I'm handling it is it's, as it's written in the ordinance, it's $1,000 for anything life safety. And I've included as the local authority to say anything that requires a license, you need a permit for. So if it's electrician, a plumber, a gas fitter, I want to know who that person is, especially when it comes to multifamily units, when we talk to condominiums and stuff. I'm making the full permits for that stuff, so. But I'm just some food for thought, just something.
Yeah, no, I
that-
think it's a great idea.
Yeah, just something that
Pull it together.
we can
and sit
discuss,
down
we'll
and
pull it
talk.
together and
Your
we'll have some more
convenience.
conversation.
Yeah, and one of the things that precipitated this today is we had a building permit or a driveway permit or a building permit that was pulled to repave a driveway. It's something that is in kind, but we still need to have some kind of paperwork filed on it, because something like that would have a culvert involved.
Potentially.
We would still want to
Right.
know
And it's,
that it's going on,
Cut it to
but
the
it
road,
isn't going
too,
to affect the value of the property per se.
Right.
So I'm redoing my driveway this
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
So I don't.
Right now, you would need a building permit, because it would be over, I'm assuming it's over $1,000, then you would need a building permit.
Yeah.
But what we're talking about is having this maintenance permit. That's a different category.
right, so we
So
keep
we're being
track of,
notified,
right,
but we're not, it's not gonna go for the assessors to review, you know, and incur costs there. Because it doesn't really do it. Right now, we just have this big pile of building permits that the assessors have to sort through. and review.
I feel like I'm hearing two things. I thought you said that if you're redoing a driveway or you're redoing a roof with another shingle roof, you don't need a permit.
That's what we would like to introduce. We would still like to have some sort of intent for maintenance, or I don't know if we call it a permit, but a notification of maintenance or something that they would be able to tell us, okay, this doesn't rise to the level of a building permit, but there may be some construction here that may have an impact for, say, Jim, like the driveway example, where if they're tearing up their driveway to repave it, he can go, there's something that says for Jim to go take a look and say, hey, before you repave it, we're gonna replace the culvert. And then you can repave it. Kind of thing.
So it's a tracking mechanism rather than having a building permit. Just-
Because the building permit process automatically sets into motion inspections. I have to look at all of these. So I don't need to go look at a roof that's been reshingled. I don't need to go look at a driveway that's been repaved. You know, it's those types of things that don't need inspections. So basically, when you have a building permit, we're looking for life safety, and we're making sure that people who are doing the work are licensed to do the work.
But as of today, without the changes you're suggesting, you do need a permit.
You do. Yep. it's written. And $1,000 is a very low threshold.
Been that way for how long now? That may be
At
another
least
thing,
15 years.
that may be something else to look at as well.
Yeah.
The threshold for instance. Yeah, no, I think it's a good idea. I mean,
Yeah.
pull it together and we can sit and have just a meeting to discuss this at some point. If
Sure.
you're looking at trying to install something or put something in place for next year. So whenever it's convenient for you, if you're ready.
Yep.
We'll get together and talk about it. There's obviously some interesting categories here, like you don't need a building permit for a driveway, but the town does want to know, probably wants to know exactly what you're gonna do because that driveway impacts a town road
Well,
potentially.
it gets rid of the inspection issue.
For the, right,
And if we know about it, then Jim can talk to the
That's right,
contractor,
right.
and it can be more of an informal, let's just make sure we're not messing anything up with drainage or whatever. by doing
but
this.
putting a new, but reshingling a roof, that's another category, but I'm saying, there's several categories.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Great, I think it's good. Bob, I think that's makes sense. Anything else? Dave?
You may have gotten a copy of the letter that was delivered to all the contractors in town, any active building permit sites. Got a copy of was sent a letter by me reminding them of the noise ordinance.
I haven't seen it yet. Would you send it out
And,
an email blast?
No, it was just shared as a heads up that this happened, so.
Oh,
So
I remember you
I
gave
can
a-
give you a copy to make sure you get a copy.
okay, that's good, that's good.
So we've been getting some pretty good compliance. The duty officers are paying attention in the morning, making sure that there were a couple job sites, said that they were oblivious to the ordinance and now they don't. So we're working with it. I believe that's it.
Is the temporary parking across from the golf, is that the same as it was last year?
It is
The length.
in place,
Yeah.
lengthwise, and everything is the same. It's gonna remain in place until we do the.
So it's exactly the same as it was last year?
Exactly the same as it was.
I was curious why it didn't go closer. But if it's the same as last year.
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
That was a safety sightline issue, right, as I recall.
Around the corner.
And either, and why we
It's about 50 yards from the pole.
say from that, yeah,
Yeah.
on either end.
Same as it was.
Yeah.
Did you, David, be able to track down the purpose of that paper? That's-
Yeah, there's a driveway repaving on Greeley Hill, so.
Ah, okay.
When it's those mountain.
Really,
Oh,
really?
lower really.
Oh, okay.
So they must have asked the golf
Yeah,
course.
they
Yeah,
all-
leave it there. So they must
They-
have asked the golf course if they could leave it there. So
Yeah, I haven't heard anything otherwise. I'm just gonna reach out to the owners tomorrow,
okay,
because I don't have a permit.
right.
I have to do a little research because they did pull a building permit last year for an outbuilding. And I just have to make sure that this wasn't
Included.
part of that.
Right.
If it was, then they're covered, but if it's not, then I could have.
Anything else? Dylan, and thank you for taking me by the hand one day. It was very interesting. I'll talk about it a little bit later. Although I think, Bob, you probably heard what I had to say about it at the community, and maybe there's much more I could say about it, but as I said, eye-opening, and I want to. Anyway, please, what do you got for us today?
Well, I'd like to say thank you for that, of course. We've been shorthanded staff-wise for last week, 2 separate occasions. That we've been picking up the slack and calling through. In your packet, you should have our year-to-date comparative sheet of 19 to 22. One thing I'd like to point out is the drinking water numbers are the highest they've been in 4 years, which brings our percentage between the water and wastewater numbers the closest they've ever been in terms of the years that I've been tracking, which shows a direct correlation between that is people in town and not stormwater, not irrigation. That's almost direct. What's being used is going down the drain.
Mhm.
So that's
When the water production matches the
Yes.
Yeah,
sewage. Of
correct. It'll never be identical,
course,
but this is the closest percentage wise. I think it's 87% on average throughout the year so far. And in 2019, it was around 72%
When
So-
adjusting for.
rainfall, correct? So it's.
oh, he's already
So
adjusted.
you
for
take,
it.
yeah, you
Right.
take the precipitation numbers out of
Right,
the wastewater treated,
right,
and then compare it to the water produced.
that
And that's
number,
what he's
right.
talking about.
Right.
being-
So that's a good thing.
That's a
That
good
is
thing.
good.
It just means you're not getting infiltration.
We're not treating a ton more water than we
Right.
really have to be.
I've only been flushing every other time.
Well, you know, we got 4+ years to go with the plan, so it may come down to.
It may come down to every
Uh,
3 to.
Oh, I was gonna say like odd and even days or something. I don't know.
Oh, that would be. Oh.
But other than that, there's a couple things later on that we'll discuss. Otherwise, things have been going as smoothly as they can.
Everyone getting healthy, I hope.
Yes, big improvements on across.
Good.
So,
Good to
So,
hear.
Margaret and I need to go, at least I need to go up there.
Yes.
She wants to as well, and as soon as she gets back next week, I'll reach out to both of you. Joe will be here on Tuesday, so if you can, we'll get a couple of dates from you. I'd like to have Joe go up with you. so
He was
we
very
can take
helpful.
it through.
as well, yeah.
And I don't, you're welcome to go to Littleton if you want.
Doesn't sound like that's it.
I would, I'd go to Whitefield and then
For
go
sure.
down to Plymouth.
can I recommend something?
Yeah, go ahead.
If I will be going on this trip, it may not be a bad idea to have Rich go on this trip. So that way there's, or.
I'd like to have Rich and Jim go
Absolutely.
with you guys and Joe. And
And if I mean, worst case scenario,
Yeah.
I can go with Jim or Rich, that way at least you have Jim's eyes on it. And an operator's perspective as well.
Yeah.
No, I mean, what was, and I'll just advance it up. I mean, the main thing I think for you, since you've heard what I had to say at the community meeting, that the Whiteville plant is going to be very similar, I think, to the plan that we're eventually going to approve. If we go with the recommendation of the engineering firm, it's just smaller and the treatment won't be as intensive, right? As I understand it, they don't have to meet the current standards we have to meet, so
Yeah.
there's some processes they don't have to.
that we will be adding.
We will be adding in, and they're about a third our size,
They
in
are,
terms of
Between a third and a half.
their design flow is about half of our size.
design flow. Okay, that's the word I need. Right. No, I'm not talking about plant size. I'm talking about design, but that is related to, obviously, there's a relationship between the two.
I've been thinking the last week or so about a discussion at the last meeting about manpower in the future. And, it seems to me that the way we're going, maybe by necessity, I don't know, is contrary to the way the world is going. We have driverless cars, everything seems to be going into automation. And we, on the other hand, are putting in a system that's going to require more highly trained operators that we know right now, today, that could be very hard to find and keep. So I don't know if there's any system that Joe was looking at that requires less manpower. So I sure think that that's something we ought to be looking at. If it's out there and it's available, I can't believe it's not, given the fact that the rest of the world is going in that direction.
Sure.
So I certainly don't have the answers, but I think we ought to be asking that question.
It'll
Because
be,
that scares the heck out of me, that the necessity to have, 4 perhaps qualified running 24/7.
so one of the things to consider is that the staffing plan is not determined by us, it's determined by the state of New Hampshire. So regardless of, they'll oversee our project, will be built for a plan, they have to approve it. But the staffing plan will be determined by New Hampshire DES.
Right.
So regardless of.
But I think that's a good thing. That's a conversation we need to have with DES.
Right.
As far as, look, we're building this plan. If we put in SCADA
Well, the
controls
most
that
automation we can get is.
do everything remotely, why do we have
To
to
have
have?
someone, I think
this
you
staff?
find when you go to
You're-
Whitefield, you'll see the really, I guess,
Automation.
is it state of the art? I mean,
Yeah, it's pretty much.
it's very impressive. It's all remote, but they still have two people.
Right, or at least ask DES, put the onus on them
Exactly. Because
to
we,
say,
our
is there
staff-
technology you'd like to see?
whatever the state
Right.
requires us to do.
And
But
I
I-
came away with the impression that even with that highly automated, smaller plan, it was tough for just two
People to keep up.
people to keep up.
Correct, because it's not just Monday through Friday.
Right.
The Plant doesn't shut down, so people are in Saturday and Sunday.
And they're on call, right.
I mean, that really scares me, that we're not good at
Yeah,
maintaining that level of employee.
And we can't turn it off.
Exactly, we can't.
the other aspect of that as well, though, that I'd like to mention is that the people, it's a company that runs Whitefield, it's not the municipality.
That's right.
So they don't have, it's not like two people, and that's it. If someone's out, they just.
They can call someone,
Correct,
but even that plan, where they could do that, they only had two people, and that seemed to be
short staff.
short-staffed.
Correct.
And a highly automated, and with that kind of backup. And then you go to Littleton, and they only have like two people,
Yeah.
and deferred maintenance, I mean, the place was,
There's not much left of the facility.
yeah. And as I said at today's community forum, they're looking at just a $20 million repair renovation and to get to come within permit standards.
Just to add this, their permit is 30 times.
Less stringent,
Correct.
if I use the right word there, than ours, so.
But that's a good point, Bob, and I agree. If we're gonna spend money on a control system, then we need to talk to DES about being.
The automation will also help cut down on overtime costs because it'll be something that can be accessed via the computer as opposed to having to have someone come in and manually correct every single thing.
We're also hampered by our location. I
Correct.
imagine if we could get someone in here within 10, 15 minutes is one thing, but if it takes
Yeah.
half hour, 45 minutes for someone to come up the road because there's no,
I timed it this
Work
morning from my house.
I'm sorry?
I timed it this
Yeah.
morning. Now,
What is
I'm the closest one,
yeah,
25 minutes.
25 minutes. Let's call it a half hour.
Yeah.
For ease. I'm sure that's gonna play into this as well.
Which goes back to work.
As I was saying, goes back to
It's all,
workforce.
it's all interrelated. Like, Bob, right on track.
Yeah.
Talk about it.
So we have a couple other things to talk about later.
I can move them up if you like. One of them was just the current operations and maintenance project. The effluent valve and actuator, we got a quote back from the manufacturer and an estimate, I think that's 8 to 12 weeks out.
Okay, that's not good, right?
No,
That's,
not really.
actually, that's very bad, right?
That's very,
So we're gonna have to, it's gonna be harder. We never had to do this before during breakpoint coordination. We've always had that fail safe since the beginning of time, since when it was built. So we're gonna have to just make some modifications and really keep a close eye on everything.
So more hours for staff on time, during certain periods.
Right.
And there is no way we could have a temporary assistance during this period. To get another body, in other
Yeah,
words.
it'll be difficult. One of the things that I'm still fingers crossed hoping for is biologically the lagoons come through.
Right.
If we can, we can nitrify biologically 100%.
Right.
We don't have to do breakpoint. Then it's
Does-
just what comes in.
Does
the front
rain
door.
play into this at all?
It actually hampers us. Yeah.
More rain is bad.
Yeah, it
Okay.
dilutes, which causes.
don't do the rain dance.
Yeah.
Don't do anything.
Yeah.
So we want it drought.
We want warm sunny days is what we want.
We want sunny days,
Yeah.
working on those lagoons.
They warm up the water temperature and make microorganisms work better, so. Yeah,
And it's been a rainy spring so far, I think, right?
unfortunately. Water temperature is about 8 degrees Celsius below when what it was this time last year.
Really, that much more? Wow,
That's why you're hearing.
Put in the heater.
What a bunch of kids.
Right.
It's not a heat, it's still cool.
Maybe
Yeah, yeah.
Stay over there for those fellows.
So, what is, other than meaning that you and Rich are gonna be working more hours, probably, I won't say probably at certain points during this, the 3-month period that do they have set
July
dates?
and August.
It's July, it's 2
July
months,
1st
July
and
and
August
August,
31st.
that the permit requires,
The 1 milligram liter of ammonia.
and that's from 1 July to
August.
31
Yeah,
August.
Correct.
So, our only recourse then is that you guys are working,
Or for going, or just trying to break up the shifts.
right?
That's one thing we're gonna try to see if we can figure out.
And this doesn't play into being able to shut down if we could at any point in time.
Well, that's the reason they have to be there, because we
Right.
can't shut off.
Right. Right. We just can't turn off the
Turn
plant.
off the plant.
We just can't do that anymore. That's-
The weekends is about all weekend. Like a 3-day weekend, it's like for Monday, for example, typically. And just for background information, we have to backwash our carbon filters and stand filters on Mondays. That's typically how we do it. So when we have a 3-day weekend, if we don't have any here, it's really like 3.5 to almost 4 days behind. Because we're losing
Right,
everything Friday, other than the 8 hours that were there, we run an 8-hour day, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday.
Right.
So then we got 4 days, it's no, basically just cancel out wherever you were at, and then you use 2 days to talk about. Saturday,
So
Sunday.
they're
So it's just one of those things that doesn't stop like it used to. Used to get those air time frames where we
Right.
shut down for 2 to 3 weeks at a time.
and there's no way we could do that now.
No.
Or even 2 or 3 days at a
Yeah,
time.
I mean, realistically, if we have to shut down for longer, 3 or 4 days,
Oh.
weeks in advance, just to prepare for that. And then, so for your knowledge, last July, and trying to prepare for breakpoint and try to buy some time without having to do it. We ran extended runtime for all of June. And then we got 7 inches of rain the first 2 weeks of July, and then rained it out. Yeah. So we've tried to do that, to try to buy us some time away from doing breakpoint, and it's just the weather didn't cooperate. And it just, like I said, dumped 7 inches of rain in July, so.
But I guess what I'm asking is, aside from more staff hours, is there a plan B? Or is it just gonna be depending on staff,
More staff hours.
more staff? Just plan B is even more staff hours.
Yeah.
It's his winter.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good way to put it, because this is the hardest time of year for us.
It's like the clock.
Okay,
They're gonna work what they need.
okay. So you guys are not allowed to get sick now. For the next-
Why do you say that? You can't say that.
Shouldn't be sitting next to Jim.
Nope.
I was thinking that we should put them in bubble wrap or
Typhoid
something.
bear.
That's right.
Do you have something else? that you said there, one more thing?
Nice lady.
No, I mean, just a new treatment plant project. If you want to set that up for home business, I'm supposed to make a call to an individual. I believe they're the vice president of the company down at Bristol in regards to those curtains, baffle curtains for the self-holding pond.
Mhm.
And try to get them up here to take a look at that and get some ideas on dimensions that we need and a quote what the cost of that install would be as well.
And Joe will be here next Tuesday. on
For
that,
our
For the
review.
with a representative of an alternative technology.
Oh, right, okay,
And they'll be doing a visit to talk to Rich.
right.
Dylan. That might be a good time if the current guy could be here. Yeah, try to see if we can coordinate that. We also had a discussion with the finance people at New Hampshire DES. And the news on that front was good today. We're almost finished with the application, the final application for the $4 million out of the currently authorized
Right.
monies. That's going in, that we're number 8. So we're.
And it's 20% of four.
20%
Of four.
of the 4 million.
Right.
Will be loan forgiveness. So that's secure. We talked to them about the other $1 million that we've already borrowed from the bond bank. DBS said that if we can show them paid invoices up to that $1 million for reimbursable costs that we have incurred already,
Mhm.
they will count that in addition to the 5 million. So whatever we can substantiate, we're going to get 20% back on. That will include the $400,000 design contract with, we don't have to have paid the bills, we can have it under contract.
Right.
It'll include the 400,000 engineering contract. It will include
So that's 80,000.
it'll include the technical memo. I think that was $60,000 or $70,000. So we're going to add up all of the work, and we can go all the way back to March 3rd of 2020. So any bill or any contract that we've had that is an eligible cost
That
We're
we
gonna
use
get-
that,
that we used any town money.
any town money for, so it'd be more than 100,000 potentially.
No,
It could
up to the 5
Up to
million.
the 5 million, right.
Because that's what we were.
Right. Right.
Was the 5.
Right. That's
So
the
we
end we're talking about.
So we don't treat that as revenue, we treat that as just a net bill.
That's correct. It's paying us back.
Go ahead.
So, we were not planning on that. We thought it would be more of a battle. So
Good.
we've got quite a bit of funding. That we
Yeah, I mean, that's potentially another 100,
Potentially
another
another
100, yeah. Excellent. And speaking of money, where are we on the ammonia tanks?
we're going to talk to you later.
Okay, thank you. Sir.
Yes.
Mr. Major.
Well, we too are slightly short-staffed due to sick time, vacation time, and a vacancy. So we have not filled our vacancy as of yet. But things
Who's
are
the
going,
maintenance worker?
things are going fairly well. We're getting caught up. We're able to complete the bike path from the back of the.
Looks great.
arena.
That was really nice.
So we just have, we're waiting on the signs so we can install the signs. Finally, the library door showed up and we were able to put that on. So
What?
The library.
the library door. So we got that on, and we also replaced the culvert at the entrance to the cemetery today.
Oh, really? Okay.
So that culvert had failed over the last year or so, and other than that, we're trying to keep up with mowing, and thankfully the garbage situation, if you will, is fairly steady, and it's going pretty well. So I'm able to drop guys off of that for a day.
I just noticed in the occupancy report that GRC is hitting starting next week.
Yeah, when they're back.
Soon.
Soon.
So there's going to be an uptick.
There's a noticeable uptick in
But then we should have people back, so. Maintenance wise, things are going well, the guys are good, and we're just plugging along.
You got some hydrant stuff coming in June, if I remember right.
Yep, we're actually, Brad is working on hydrants as we speak. We've got pieces and parts that we're going around assessing the hydrants, see what we need. We,
I saw it on Boulder Path today.
yeah, so we're doing a full assessment of each one of the hydrants, getting the pieces and parts that we can get right off, and going and hitting those as we can. It's hard because we're a little short staffed, because usually I'll send one of my guys with Brad. Well, Nate's pretty good with hydrants being our next five, so who knows. A little bit about those, and he's good help on that end, so we're slowly getting there, and we're slowly getting our water asset management inventory completed. And we're getting, we're assessing all of the sewer manholes in town, especially not so much for the manhole itself, but for the bricks and the mortar that the covers and frames set on. They deteriorate over time due to water intrusion and specifically salt in the wintertime. So we're assessing all of those, making a list, and we will be replacing the worst ones as soon as we can
There are currently 2 covered ones on council.
onto council.
They're covered because hopefully they'll get repaid. So we just needed to, they're down 4 or 5 inches. They're really bad. So that's what those.
They should be, the covers should all be flush with the pavement. When you see them sunken, you know that underneath, the brick and the mortar is decaying.
Would that be erosion too, of dirt or sand or anything?
The time, usually if you don't catch and redo either put in a new concrete donut or put in new bricks and mortar, what can happen is that the water can get in and around and erode dirt down into,
And that can cause it.
and that can cause it to.
One quick thing, on the list, but not a high priority, the graffiti in the underpass. On Pond Loop Trail, I think we'll have more bicyclists and whatnot doing that, but there's some graffiti on gray, it looks like, go there and slap some gray paint over it.
There is, but I'll have to check, but I know the last time we found a product that actually, I think it's called graffiti removal.
No, but that's even better.
So we'll,
Yeah, I
we'll
mean,
look to
it's,
see if we can get some of that and
yeah.
give them a
because-
clean canvas.
Yeah, right, well, I mean, there is that, I get that.
Where,
So, you know, the underpass under, on Pond Loop, you go under Valley.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, one of the more highly traveled.
okay.
There must be an artist in town.
Right where you did the repair on the, yeah, I walked down there the other day too. I don't see how we get a, you know, a pond loop, a trail, you know, what do we call it? Levitt loop, getting it down in there. You know, we were talking about putting rocks across Snowbrook coming up.
It's gonna be a little tough.
It's not, I don't, yeah,
No.
there's no way it could be ADA compliant.
Not safe.
No,
No.
it would have to be a wooden
A
wall.
little wooden walkway, and that's not so easy.
Well, ES doesn't.
No.
So that's unfortunate. Anyway, okay, great.
Lithium battery, that issue
Yeah.
came up this morning,
Yeah.
disposal of
I-
lithium batteries.
We got that video from NRRA and shared it with the community meeting. We have a household hazardous waste day, which is the best time. People should hold on to them. And then they can bring them in.
Just once a year.
That's once a year,
Once a year.
and it's usually in the fall.
September. I guess.
Yes, it's generally in September. Yeah.
You got two shots at it, actually, don't you?
You do, you have Littleton, which is earlier,
Right.
which would be in Plymouth.
And
And
we pay for it because we're members of the.
members of the.
Members of Wausau.
Penny Bakers.
Sammy Baker Solid Waste District.
Yeah, so we just are encouraging people, don't throw them in the trash because the truck compacts those bags. And like happened there in Lee, if that breaks open. And what you see, what I've heard happens a lot with trash trucks is when you're driving down the highway and there's a lot of air circulating through the truck,
So, sir.
then the air hits the open bag and that can cause fires. There's been several instances of that. So it's just, more to make people aware of it and help us out by please don't throw them in the dumpsters.
And that's not only, that's one of the reasons that we have two on the truck. One primarily is for safety. But the guy's gotta watch what's going into the truck.
Right.
Because you can't just be, you have to have eyes on it, because if TVs and things like that that aren't allowed in the landfill end up coming out because they watch at the landfill, what's coming out the back of the truck. And they'll either fine you or, they'll load it back on. Take that load out of here.
It seems to me we're getting more and more furniture and appliances on weekends.
At the swap shop?
Yeah.
Dave and I were talking about that on Monday. We have our cameras are working. We did catch a couple of people who apparently dropped stuff off and didn't pay. And we contacted them to get them.
And typically what I'll do is I'll do a morning and when I come in the morning, and then when I leave at night, I'll do a quick eyes on inventory, see what's there. It's very interesting. There's quite a few, I like to call them shoppers, and they'll come through on you know which ones they are, and they'll come through and stuff disappears.
Sunday afternoon is best.
Yes.
You recognize me with the mustache?
Yeah.
But
You don't even need a
typically,
mustache.
You're
I see,
being
yeah,
filmed and you're being
yeah.
recorded, so.
But
Wear your mustache.
the take out of the till on Monday morning is, pretty close most of the time.
Like I said, we only ran into that one.
We're trying, we told the guys to keep an eye out because of, stuff that they should be dumping up top during the week.
Well,
That's
the problem is a lot of people who are dumping probably on here.
And the issue which will be alleviated when we move the transfer station, at least to the majority, is we gotta physically move it. Either by one of the one tons or backhoe, something. that Drag it up.
And then, on the issue of the interim, I guess, transfer station. That is in planning. Oil Tanner will be here on site next Tuesday. Let's really get the ball rolling on
Their site
Design.
Right.
the wetland delineation has been completed, the survey has been completed, and we're moving forward with that.
Right, yeah, we talked a little bit about this at the municipal solid waste committee meeting yesterday about a couple of the folks there from two committees getting together to determine some prioritization. Dumpsters, or once the site is done, we know we need dumpsters. How else can we use the rest of that property? So they're gonna be working on that. They're also gonna be doing inventory of all the dumpsters just to see if they're compliant with the current regulations.
I did see that. I see
And
other
I told
sites.
Joe about some Mike's participation with that.
Okay, great, all right, let me know that. Okay, excellent. Okay, Bob, good. Steve, what's happening in administrative services?
Outside of the normal day-to-day magic that happens at town hall, we're focusing heavily still on documentation of processes. That's been a big initiative of mine to make sure that everything that we touch or handle eventually has some kind of a documented process behind it. So we've been making some good progress, I think, over the past couple of weeks in that regard. In addition, the digitization of documentation is something else that we've been prioritizing, as well as getting out of the paperwork. So AP's been finalized, or a completely electronic fee environment right now, meaning that all of our invoices, in my opinion, are much more accessible, being readily available through QuickBooks rather than through a filing run. Our next project will be working with the property cards and deeds that we keep getting everything in that world up into the computer environment. Will happen over the course of the next few months, hopefully. Hiring, as Jim alluded to, we still have that vacancy in the maintenance mechanic role. We have a prospect that we're interested in finalizing a job offer to. So Mark, Jim, and I just need to kind of circle the wagon on that, get the offer letter together and talk to the candidate about acceptance. Previously worked for the state in a similar role, lives in North Woodstock. Correct. And hopefully we can attract him and get that squared away by the end of the week. Addition down to Triple I, summer. Yeah. Additionally, we've been talking to a few folks who have expressed some interest locally about picking up some part-time work at the post office. So in the past, we've run that department with 2 part-timers and a full-timer, and I would like to get us back into that kind of a model if we could to help satisfy the uptick that we see in winter.
Is Mike still out?
He is, yeah, we did have, we had an operation about a week and a half ago, which will be a 4 to 6 week recovery time.
So it's Tony now, or all,
Yeah, and she knew that coming in.
Right.
That's all I have. All right.
And part of that digitization will include the maps and the plans.
oh, yes.
So, yeah, we did
After we get the property record card stuff in, then we're gonna turn our
Do
attention.
you that with the
yeah, we had,
Because the map, the scanning that we have done for the ZBA meeting and things like that, the quality is awesome. of that scanner. Actually, we copied a plan and it came out better out of the printer than what we put in, so more readable. So it's a good system.
So shall we move on to calendar review?
Yep.
Our next meeting, select board meeting is the 22nd of June at 3 p.m. Here at Town Square. Planning board regular meetings tomorrow.
Can I just ask one question on the
Please.
22nd?
Yep.
That includes time with the engineer.
Yes,
Do you
That's
want
right.
to do that prior to?
yes,
the
I think
regular
that would be better, don't you, Bob?
And do it as a workshop.
Yeah,
So
start at
can we
2.
start at 2?
2 o'clock, okay, so 2 o'clock on the 22nd. And then we'll roll in
3 o'clock. 3 o'clock meeting that day.
Well, yeah, but we can flow into it. If we need to extend, we'll just start the public meeting and finish with the engineers. It's going to be a workshop. It's going to be open to the public.
Yeah.
It's just get that out of the way rather than make them sit here.
Well, if they think, yeah, no, we don't want them.
No.
Don't want to sit here. If you think we need to start a little earlier, that,
I was just mentioning, there's a lot of.
Do you want to start at 1 and then we can take a break if you finish early?
that works for me as well. Yeah. Actually, the last time we did it, we was there like 4 hours straight.
Yeah, that's why I mentioned it.
Yeah,
Because
no,
we were there for a while.
we were, I was out.
So workshop at 1 p.m.
1 p.m. And then we'll just roll into our regular meeting. Very good. And ZBA has a meeting on the 21st of June. Yeah.
What's the issue there?
It's a variance request for a setback variance relief.
On a porch roof
About
that's too
20
close.
inches over the setback.
It's been noticed. I noticed it.
It's been noticed.
I
it's
saw it, yeah.
Posted and the whole packet is available in the office. if you want to have a look at it. It's on T House.
Yeah.
T-Austin.
Sounds like it was a porch roof that's
Yeah.
21
so-
inches inside,
Yeah.
20-foot setback.
Yeah, there's a bunch of information.
Speaking of Town Square, how is things going with the assessors, by the way?
Very good. They've been in town, actually, out measuring properties on Tuesdays and Wednesdays for the most part. And they've been doing inputs the other days remotely, but Tuesdays and Wednesdays, pretty much. They're this weekend, this month, this Western night.
Okay, right.
They have to reach out to, knocking at the doors first. They
Right.
If no longer was there and wants to, that's fine, they don't reach it.
And they're fine down in our old meeting room?
Yeah, they're,
Everything's working there?
a good space for them.
So you can let them in or not let them in at your option.
At the
Yeah.
owner's option, absolutely. Yeah. And they have been working, they've been trying to, they've been reaching out to some of the condo associations as well. I'm sure that's going to be the next step. So there might be some more challenges there with access, but they're working with property managers.
As far as the interiors, Bob, we do encourage people to do it because if they can get in, they get the best information. They get the fairest assessment. If they can.
They're very impressed by the staff. By what it's all super customer service savvy, because that's a little production.
So still on schedule, going according to plan, so to
Yes.
speak.
Yep.
And so we will be here until August.
Well, maybe, hopefully we can get done by middle of July.
Oh, okay,
Middle.
Where they're at.
okay. Great.
Planning board, next regular meeting is tomorrow.
Tomorrow at 8 AM right here in Times Square. There. Okay. Let's see, on to new business, the letter from Casella Waste Management to the
Yep.
Pennsylvania Solid Waste.
Yeah, I just provided that for your information. They just wanted to clarify, there have been obviously several things in the media, and a letter had been sent to the Pemmican District. And this was a clarification from Casella about their status. I think from our standpoint, it's acknowledgement by Casella that they're, again, an affirmation by them that they're going to be there at least through the next 3 year contract
If we decide. to
with
go back.
the district if we decide.
And they are very committed to a renewed effort for the Dalton Granite State landfill in Dalton. So things got a little convoluted and with the state and with different things, with save, what's the name of the lake there? But at any rate, so they just decided to ditch it and start fresh.
But by pulling it, there was not, they're done. They're
Right, it wasn't a
redoing
permanent-
the-
We're not gonna, we're just gonna
We have a meeting,
redo.
Penny Baker Solid Waste District has a meeting, I believe it's the 22nd, to discuss, well, it's a regular meeting, but part of that meeting should probably be in non-public to discuss with Casella and NCES the contract for Penny Baker, members of the Penny Baker Solid Waste.
Well, it'd be good to finally see what, first of all, the 3 year affirmation is a very good thing. Second, it'd be interesting to see how the contract is gonna come down at the end of the day from them as something to compare with wind waves, which I think we will be looking at as well.
Just waiting to get a point of contact to talk to.
Right. Start that
Maybe
conversation.
it's-
Okay, I think I've said enough about the visit. So let's go on to old business. Update water river crossing.
Nothing, we've not gotten the update. I had this on to give you an update. We received any information on the schedule. But the
NTR.
contractor is not provided.
Okay,
So we're basically waiting for them to give us the date that they're going to be on site. The electrician has continued to work in the building.
Okay. Wastewater current ops and maintenance projects.
Can we skip that for a minute
Okay,
and we go to the on-street parking?
On-street parking discussion.
He said he'd be right back.
Okay,
Go down the, I'm sorry, there's nothing on the road project.
all right.
Yeah, there's
And then
nothing on the
nothing
shuttle
on
list.
the- Yeah.
Okay.
So I guess go to wastewater.
I just kind of finished a little bit before.
I think it's basically what we had gone over before, where we're in a holding pattern with a significant lead time on equipment to be able to move forward and
Dylan and I are in the midst of finalizing a good job advertising. So we're hoping within the next week or so to have that out. Trying to be as creative as possible, as you can imagine, making that role as attractive as it possibly can be.
One of the trends that we're seeing anyway is that the jobs that have been posted for wastewater operators just keep getting reposted.
Right.
So it's,
they're not.
And they're very flat in terms of style too, so we want to see how creative we do that.
Yeah, Jazzy House will stand out.
And the same is true in the water world. Water treatment plants.
So
I think the issue there will be really making sure that we're moving forward at a good pace. And that's something we can talk about, I think, on a meeting with the engineers on the 27th.
yeah, we're down to closing in on 9 months for the town meeting, and 51 months for the start.
Right.
We're getting pretty close. I
Sounds
know
long,
that
but it
sounds
isn't-
like a long
but
time,
it
but
isn't
it's
stuff.
it's less than 9 months because we have the bond.
well, that's right, it's actually 7.5 months for town meeting.
The town meeting. Right.
Because we need the numbers to get the notices out on the bond.
Right. And it's a couple months where we haven't decided about it.
Well, he left his stuff, so can we go to concerns?
Yeah, we'll just roll on, we can
or
always go
anything
back to
else?
that. Anybody got anything else, any correspondence of note? Board concerns, director, correspondence? Nothing?
No.
Okay, we want to go non-public and then we can always stick with
Yeah.
David afterward.
Yeah.
All right, can I have a motion to go into non-public session? All in favor? Aye. Let us go ahead and.